Afternoon, team. Coach Matt Drinkon here with Pro Advisor Coach. I want to welcome all of our CoreNet high performers and members here. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you today. And I just want to say thanks as we get started to our CoreNet board, our leaders. They've reached out to me and they were talking about how can we add value and serve our people and our constituency, stakeholders in CoreNet, people that we care so much about. How do we do that right now? And it just came to this today is an opportunity for us to serve our membership. So pleasure to be with you here today, team. As we get started today, I'd like to first say a couple things that, to face this type of challenge alone can be a tough pill to swallow. And there is strength and there's hope when we can get together and learn and evolve together in a challenging situation. So it's great to see all these leaders out here today. I want to give a shout out to the person that's on this webinar right now that has the name CoreNet Carolinas. That's Brett Frenier. He's in Raleigh with Ratio Designs, and he is the one that is running the background here. So Brett, thanks so much for helping out. I see a few more people that I know on here, so great to see everyone, team. As we dive in and get started, no matter where you are, if you are, let's see, working from home for the first time in your career, if you're leading a team remotely for the first time in your career, if you're like me, and now for the past couple weeks, your spouse is also working at home and your kids are off from school. There's no nanny. It's just you and your whole family, and everything is now happening at home. It's happening rapidly and you're being forced to adapt. Well, team, I'm right here with you. One thing we all have in common right now, whether you're the owner of the company, outside account executive, no matter who you are, is that we're all here right now. Let's make the most of it right now together. Let's do our very best to sponge it up and learn as much as we can right now in this time that we've dedicated to each other right now. So as we dive in, let me run through what you can expect today. To get things kicked off, you can expect that this is a safe place to ask questions and to learn. I'll be very transparent and direct with things like I always am, which means that some of the answers, they're always coming from a place of empathy and care. They're going to be very direct. So there's that. Number 3, take what's valuable to you. Some of the things you may have heard before, some may be new to you, some we may go at a high level and you want to go very granular, that's fine. You can ask those questions and we'll get to those and we'll do that live, but take what's valuable to you. I'm sure there's something that everyone can take out of this. And the last thing, and listen carefully to how I set this expectation, because this will be part of one of the strategies, is setting the expectation. Please allow me some patience. Please allow me some patience. If you might hear any sounds in the background, I call them my dinosaurs. You might be hearing one right now. You're going to hear some children from time to time, and that's what happens when you have a 4, 3, and a 1-year-old. So patience with me on that, and being able to set the expectation and allow for some grace and patience with the people that you work with is going to be important. I'll also say this, that should there be any internet challenges on my end or on your end, one good virtual meeting tip for everyone is not only to click the link that you have, the Zoom meeting link, but also dial in from your phone. And what that happens then is you now have 2 ways you're connected to the room. So if the internet fails, you can still hear, right? So that's something that if you're not experienced in using these types of tools, it'll help you over time. So if my face freezes or the lag time is slow, at the end of our discussion today, there's going to be an email sent out within the next 24 hours that's going to have a breakdown of the strategies, the empowering questions, and specific actions that each and every one of you can take to thrive working remotely. So you will get the notes, so you don't have to rush to take screenshots during our presentation today. The last thing I'll mention is you see at the bottom of the screen, my email address is on there, matt@proadvisorcoach.com. That is my company, Pro Advisor Coach. Our mission is to eliminate pain and suffering in the workplace. We have about 75 coaches across the country, and we work with organizations like CoreNet to help you achieve your best and really challenge organizations to do that. So let me go on to my goal for today. It's to help enhance your mindset and your skills in working remotely. The reason we wanted to do this series, we wanted to add as much value as we possibly can to the CoreNet membership. So That is it. There's no ask at the end. There's no pitch. It's all just to add as much value, to help everyone become comfortable with virtual technology, to give tips from those who've been doing this for some time. Personally, I've worked remotely for 9 years, have run several companies doing it, including this one I do now. It's something that I'm very comfortable with, have led thousands of people with it. So there'll be something that you can take away from this. You can get better at this, and you will. You can do it. Or as my whiteboard says, you can do this. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to some of the challenges we're going to face. Or in your mindset, it might be the opportunities. Sometimes you might have some VPN connections or challenges in this world right now. Sometimes, if you're like me, you might have the challenge of a lot of kids. And if you have more than one kid, it doesn't matter how many you have, it's a lot of kids. So a lot of kids in the background could be something. It could be something where you have a spouse, or you have Netflix, or you have your pantry, or for some of us, we have our bed, and it's easy to sleep in. There's a lot of different distractions out there right now. There's the idea of running meetings virtually. It's different for some people. There's probably a couple of people on this call right now that are saying to themselves that, man, I've lost the ability to go see someone and shake their hand face to face in the flesh. So this virtual stuff, it's for the birds. It doesn't work. And I would say, team, that that's your BS. And I say BS, your belief systems talking there. Everyone has their own BS. And when it comes to your belief systems, if you let that stay and not evolve, then that can be the demise. So let's be open to the idea of these challenges can be your greatest opportunities. And once you get through your own stuff, then we've got everything involved in your business. We've got clients, we've got prospects, and yes, prospects are still there, and there's still a very active way that we can communicate with them. We've got our bosses, we've got our peer groups, and all the different ways that we're communicating right now can be your challenges or opportunities. So that's a place to start here, Taneem. Here's the format of the call. I'm going to share the strategy with you, tell a story, empower you with questions that you can ask yourself, that you can work on how you show up. And then at the end, we'll have Q&A. I want to get to Q&A as quickly as possible. My goal is to run through the strategies quickly, and within the next 15 to 16 minutes, we'll start Q&A. Any questions you have at all, nothing is off the table, type those into the chat to the person, Coronet Carolinas, that's Brett in Raleigh. Type it to him, and he will send it to me. So that's going to be the format of the call. At the end, we'll go ahead and start sending out that email with the strategies, the questions, and the actions within the next 24 hours. Having said that, let's go ahead and dive in and get started here, team. So, number one, 95% think puppies are cute. Team, before I challenge people and push them up a high hill, I like to get them to smile. So let's smile for a second here at these puppies while I take a sip of water. Thank you, Steve. I can see you smiling. That's great. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in and begin here, team. The strategy is going to go in this order. First, we're going to go under the waterline and work on our own mindset. Second, we're going to go into how we set expectations with people. Third, we're going to work on your workspace. Fourth is your routine. And fifth and last, we're going to wrap up with virtual technology and the thoughts around that. So we're going to zip through these strategies, and then at the end, Q&A, and we'll do the Q&A. You'll be typing that into the chat box. It'll go straight to Brett, and he'll send it to me, and we'll do the Q&A that way. So let's go ahead and dive in and begin here, team. Strategy number one. I start with your attitude because it's the most important thing that frames everything else. One of the things I've heard this week consistently, and for the past 3 weeks actually, has been, man, I'm stuck at home and now I just have all these challenges. Well, if we have that mindset, it may be true, yet at the same time, we've got to work through our stuff right now as leaders more effectively and quicker than ever. Our attitude really sets the temperature for where we're going. This quote on the screen is one of my favorites, and I wake up every day to it. I'll read it to you now. I've come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element. It's my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de-escalated, and a person is humanized or dehumanized. Team, the sooner that we can accept it and own it, that we have this new opportunity, this new world that we're working in right now, whether it's temporary or for longer, as soon as we accept that and own that, and our attitude strengthens, and we can set the tone, our results will be far more effective, far more inspirational, and where we want. So strategy number one is attitude. Your mind is fertile soil, my friend. It doesn't care what's planted in it. Whatever we feed into our mind will grow and expand. Whatever we focus on expands in our consciousness. So whether we plant corn or soybeans in here, which can feed our family, or we plant the deadly nightshade root, which can kill us if we eat it, either way, your mind will grow it. So what are we focusing on, and what's in our attitude? Here are some questions I would challenge you to ask yourself and your team. Why is it important to feed your mind with positive information from what you're consuming? I love this question because it's a why question, which gets the other side of your brain thinking creatively. Why questions center us around our purpose. They center us around the creative part of our brain, which helps us expand and have limitless possibilities. Why questions are the kinds of questions that leaders will ask themselves when they're governing and they're setting their North Star. When you last overcame a major obstacle, how did you overcome it, and what strengths did you bring? It's important if you look back at the last time there was a major crisis, whether it was a personal health scare or something in our company or something in the world, the last time something challenging happened, you overcame it. What strengths did you bring to the table? Many times those strengths could be lying dormant right now, and we can reawaken them by really leaning into them. How might this situation empower you to be a better in some area of your life? Maybe your business, maybe your family, relationships, your health. I can think of more than one person from the CoreNet board, who I see a few on this call, that I was with on a call last week, and they were talking about how they're getting to spend more time with their family, and it's strengthening that bond. And I can think of quite a few people who now have been exercising more, or been finding different ways to do their recipes with their family, or some even teaching their kids. What area of our life have we maybe neglected or taken for granted that we can strengthen right now? Strategy number one, it starts with our attitude. Okay, strategy two. Pardon me. Sticking with strategy one, I want to share with you my centering focused question. The question that I journaled a couple weeks ago was thinking about how might I show up, and here's what it was. How might we revolutionize the response to this challenge so that people feel appreciated, heard, cared for, growing and developing, and overall empower them with a sense of optimism and progress? That was the empowering question that compelled me when the board reached out to me and said, how might we add more value to our organization? It was a no-brainer. No, add value in this way. How might we revolutionize that response? How might you revolutionize your response to it? Let's go on to strategy number two, setting expectations. How we set them, what expectations we're going to set, and how to talk about it when they aren't met. So I see a couple of questions that have come in. I'm going to hold off on answering those questions so I don't get distracted, but we'll be through this part in about 5 or 8 more minutes. So setting expectations with people, with communications, with your response. Think back to the beginning of our conversation today. One of the expectations that was set was, please be patient and allow me some grace if you hear kids in the background. That's probably something a lot of you can say right now. When it comes to your people in your world, when it came to my wife, and we normally have a nanny, but she's now currently sheltered in place for the next 3 weeks or longer. So my wife, by the way, is now working full-time at home. So the way that this is working for us is we've had some expectations we set with each other on who is going to parent and teach at this time, who's going to do it the other time. So having those expectation conversations is vitally important right now. The best example I can think of this with clients, when things started to happen, when people started to work from home, I reached out to all the clients and set the expectation that, team, right now, if you have anything you want me to work with you on, workshops for your team, doing things remotely, speaking to the whole organization, I'd be happy to do that. Just please give me the window of 24 to 48 hours notice for time to respond, because it might take a little bit longer to respond right now since I'm doing full-time parenting at home and teaching at home. So learning how to set those expectations with our clients, with our prospects, with the important people in our world is crucial. With our communications, I heard a great idea from one of my top clients who does this right now. They have their out of office reply on all the time. And it says something to the effect of, thanks so much for responding. I just wanted to ask you real quick, how are you adapting? How's your family? I will get back to your business question as soon as possible within the next 24 hours, but I wanted to check on you first. Thanks for your patience. Something like that was the way that they set expectations. So thinking, team, about how you're having those conversations, how you're emailing people around it, the expectations are a crucial part. The pitfall here might be doing nothing, setting no different expectations. I think one of the challenges I've seen out there in companies is that some of them have not sent out a public communication yet because they're not sure what the plan is. I feel that an imperfect plan delivered now in a timely manner is more positive and helpful than the perfect plan delivered too late. It's up to us to set the expectations and control the narrative. And the way that we respond, setting expectation around that, well, I feel, team, that you've got to allow yourself for some grace, allow your family for some grace, and be okay to you right now. Because when it comes to responding, sometimes you may have to work a few more hours than usual. Some of us could be working around the clock. Setting the expectation with family and with client and the way we respond is crucial. Strategy number 3. Sticking on strategy 2. Questions that can help you to frame the way you think about expectations. How might I reset expectations from my key roles that clearly share my priorities, communicate with care and empathy, and underscore the importance of everyone I'm speaking with? So looking at what your key roles are and how you're setting expectations of all of the key important people, that is the tactic and the strategy. Strategy 3, your daily routine. Some of you are going to chuckle at this, and when you look at it, dress for success, clock in, and take planned breaks. Your routine is something that helped you get where you are in your business and your life. And when the routine is disrupted, what may end up happening is that, oh, you know what? It's okay to sleep in this first couple of days. It's okay for me to wear my sweats and my hoodie as I get started into this. I would challenge you, team, that as your routine shifts, that we control that shift and do your best to allow for that new routine. So when I say dress for success, there's no judgment or criticism for those who are dressed a little more casual. If it's comfortable and that's the way that you perform at your peak, by all means, go ahead and do that. For me personally, if I'm not dressed up, at least with the polo shirt on, for me, I'm not as productive and I don't feel my best. So dressing for success is one of those crucial things for some of us. Clocking in, however, is probably something that's going to work for nearly everyone. I'm finding there are 2 extremes of people out there right now. There's the person who's not ever worked like this before remotely. They're waking up, they're getting straight to their computer, and they're just grinding it all day. And before you know it, they look up, they haven't eaten, they haven't paid much attention to anything but their computer. And then there's the other extreme of the person who's sleeping in a little bit later. They used to go to the gym, they used to eat this healthy meal, and now, because things are a little bit different, they are, in their own mind at least, maybe slacking off, maybe going at things at a more casual pace. So my feedback to everyone in this place is to be able to clock yourself in mentally at the regular time you're used to in your business and stick to that. Having that type of routine at the very least is important. And you know what? If you're at home with the family right now, this is a great opportunity to have that lunchtime break with them. Taking planned breaks is one of those most important things that if you've not done it yet, at least budget in there some time each day to get in that exercise, to get in that time with the family. These are parts of the routine that I've seen help people really grow and thrive through this part. I think of those of you out there who dress professionally every single day, and you're relieved now that you don't have to go through that rigmarole of getting dressed up. So enjoy that for a little while. I would encourage everyone to get back to a place quickly where you do find some type of norm where you do dress for success. Some of the questions that you might ask yourself: how might I dress each day to empower me to feel my best, to look my best, and to show up to give it my best effort on this very important day? How might I take the time to hit pause on the work and make a magical moment in some other important area of my life? with my spouse, with my kids, friends, colleagues, for myself. One of the important things I've seen happen recently around the daily routine, there are a couple of companies who really jumped on top of this idea of having a daily routine call. Whereas before, we used to have death by meeting out there, and now I'm seeing some companies have literally a 15 or 20-minute check-in call every day just to be with each other and baking that into the routine. And if you think about it, if it's on the side of people, it's going to be a good idea right now. If you're uncertain, it's going to be a good idea right now to do things on the side of people. Workspace, strategy number 4, your productivity. So if you look around my workspace, and I had something here a second ago, I had my Superman, which is my mascot, my head cover for my golf set. But if you look around your workspace right now, are you looking at a bunch of clutter? Or are you looking at things that help you to become productive and inspire you? You know, one of the things about working from home I learned a long time ago is when I started to do it from my bedroom, I set up an office in there, and I had all kinds of dirty clothes and the unmade bed and everything everywhere. That clutter is distracting, and it doesn't get the great energy in the place. Now, you may or may not believe in that energy type of concept, but I can tell you this, the highest performers that I've seen have some type of workspace that they have been very intentional and put into it things that inspire them. You know, and I look behind this webcam up here on the wall. Every client that I coach, I have a picture with. I have it up here on the wall. It gives me my why. I look up here, I have a vision board of all the things and quotes that inspire me. Over here, I've got a painting my wife and I did on our first Valentine's Day together at Wine and Design. You know, up here, I've got something I write in every day, a new quote. You can do this, I'm going to have for this series we're doing. So is your workspace something that is confining you, constricting you? Is it ergonomic for you? Is it comfortable for you? Your daily MITs. If there's one business tip that everyone can take from this conversation that is the most valuable, this would be it. Your daily MITs. Back in the 1910s, a man named Ivy Lee was hired by Charles Schwab to come in as a productivity consultant. And Charles Schwab said to him, "What can you do to make me more productive? Show me how to get things done." Ivy Lee said, "Sure, no problem. Give me 15 minutes with all of your leaders." Then Charles Schwab said, "How much is it going to cost me?" Mr. Lee said, "Nothing right now. But in 3 months, if it works, I want you to write me a check for whatever you think it was worth." 3 months later, Charles Schwab wrote a check for $25,000 to Mr. Lee, which is worth about $400,000 today. You know, and the whole idea here that he did with them is a couple of simple steps. He spent 15 minutes with each leader. He had them sit down and write out the 6 most important things that they want to get done tomorrow. At the end of every day, he had them look at that list. All they have to do is just work on the first one until they get it done, then the second one until they get it done. And they go down that list of the daily most important tasks every day, working to get the most important things done first. Right now, there might be more over bombardment with texts, with emails, with distractions, that sometimes we can get caught off in a tangent or down in some rabbit hole. We're doing something that might be number 13 on the list and failing to get done the most important thing. Let's get those most important things done. Every day, write down what those most important things are. And as you write them down, check it off each step of the way. It's one of the most important productivity tips I've ever seen. I encourage you to do that. The questions you might use with your workspace: how might I create an environment that motivates me, challenges me, comforts me, and causes me to live inspired? How might I minimize the impact of all the distractions by clearly identifying and sticking to my most important priorities today? That's strategy number 4 around productivity. And now we'll get to the last one, and I expect a few questions on this one, and I'd be happy to spend a good amount of time on this one. The last one is the virtual mentality. Team, we become comfortable through doing. And I think about, you know, the idea of just a few days ago, we came up with doing this, and I don't know if we've ever done anything on this scale before virtually. And it was a little bit uncomfortable skating on the edge over here doing that, but we decided to do it anyways. 6 years ago, I began coaching a man who was 54 years of age. He said to me, "Man, I'm never going to do this virtual stuff. No one does it. It's not personal. I'm not going to do it." And then he had a health issue where he could not leave his office and he couldn't go to the office. So he started to do virtual meetings. 5 years later, his business was thriving. He was doing 90% of his meetings virtually, and he was really succeeding, and he'd embraced the idea. we've got to become comfortable through doing. And you can do that with me here. You can do that with your CoreNet brethren and sisters here. It's something that we've got to become comfortable through doing. Embracing it and sharing it. If you look on social media right now on LinkedIn, you'll see that there are a lot of pictures out there, screenshots of people that have 15, 25 different cameras up on their LinkedIn pictures that are showing that people are embracing and sharing it. And I'll ask that we take a picture here in a little while of all of you who are comfortable sharing your webcam. Not required to. You come at your own pace. So those are some of the high-level strategies. The question that I will challenge you with is, how might you become skilled in this virtual space and use it to be a leader for others? How might we use this virtual space to our advantage to serve people? So, team, those are some of the strategies that will help us. We've stayed really high level on those. I want to get into Q&A now and go really deep into the virtual part of it, and we'll go really deep into any of the strategies you want. So please fire off your questions to our CoreNet Carolinas host, Brett, and Brett will send those over to me.